It's the Opperman Report. And now, here is investigator Ed Opperman.
Okay, welcome to the show. Welcome to the Opperman Report. And who am I? I am Ed Opperman. That's who I am. I am your host, the private investigator and digital forensic investigator from Opperman Investigations and Digital Forensic Consulting. You can get a hold of me at oppermaninvestigations@gmail.com. Check out our Patreon, blah, 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 blah. A lot of good stuff on Patreon. I've been put up, I added, we did an interview with William Herbst about the height of Lee Harvey Oswald. It's up in Patreon, and I added all the documents and the pictures and images that Mr. Herbst had sent to me. So we have that in the Patreon right now. Also, too, tape today. Really did a really good show today with Charles Derber, who is a college professor at Boston College. Dying for Capitalism: How Big Money Fuels Extinction and What We Can Do About It. Really had a nice talk with this fellow here. He's written about 26 books. So definitely going to have him come back and discuss some of the other topics. It was one of those guests where we were talking for about 20 minutes before the interview even started. See, and whenever that happens, I'm enjoying the conversation too before the interview starts. But part of me is saying, "Oh no, I want to keep this fresh for on the air." you don't want to interrupt. You don't want to be impolite. But it's when someone says something to you off the air, then you ask them the same question on the air. They can't help but edit their comments because they don't want to bore you. Oh, he's already heard this. I'm telling him the second time. He already knows this. So they can't help. They can't separate from talking to me from talking to the audience, explain things to the audience. Which is something that so many podcasters just don't get. You know, they have a nice conversation with the guests, but they never take into consideration that there's an audience listening, and they need to clarify things for the audience, and include the audience in the conversation too. Well, no one, don't bother listening to me. I've only been doing this for 10 years. I don't know what I'm doing. Very interesting, too, how people will tell me, another expert here on socialism and democracy and fascism and capitalism. And, very seems to think I know what I'm talking about, But I'll have people listen to this show, and well, Ed, you should Google what socialism actually means. You'll have a better understanding, Oh, my goodness. I tell you, I don't want to go off in those directions again. Okay, I'm going to give the audience a chance in the chat room at Spreaker.com to vote on what I play tonight. You got a couple of choices here. One is an attorney from Staten Island, Dan Lawton, Above the Ground, A True Story of the Troubles in Northern Ireland. And it's a really interesting story about this guy he was friends with the IRA, wasn't really involved with them. The local cops over there in Ireland wanted to frame him. They put him in that Maze prison. He escaped, and then they proved he was not guilty. So that's one choice. Dan Lawton, IRA. Jamie Deluxe, Jamie Deluxe, the YouTuber. I had him on the show previously years ago. Murder, Mayhem, and Censorship. It was a freewheeling conversation with a lot of gossip about blind items and a lot of back and forth. I think people would like it. So that's another possibility for you there. Jamie Deluxe, very popular YouTuber. Anthony Feinstein, Moral Courage. This show is very special to me. Anthony Feinstein, Moral Courage, 19 Profiles of Investigative Journalists. I'm almost tempted to want to hold this one back until after I do, because I have a really big interview coming up, guys. I know a lot of times I'll say this is a huge interview, big thing coming up. This is a historic interview. I was supposed to tape yesterday. And it's coming up, and it's about a very well-known topic, popular topic. People have discussed it. Many people surrounded this topic have died suspiciously. There's been suspicious deaths, and it involves a lot of different angles and things. It's a far-reaching topic, and I'll be exclusively interviewing the fellow who has never done a radio interview before in his life. Came to me through a well-recommended, respected author recommended me to him and him to me. So this is gold that I got this. No one's gotten him before. He's never been put on the record verbally before. And we had to cancel yesterday. We were supposed to tape yesterday. We're going to do. I think we're going to need 4 hours, but he agreed to give me 2 hours. But I'm sure once I get the 2 hours, I'll get another 2 hours out of him. Maybe on another day. There's medical stuff going on, so we couldn't tape on Thursday like we had planned, which kind of threw me off for this whole week because I was planning tonight to promote that show. It's that big, okay? And I was going to spend tonight's show promoting that show, those 2 hours. So I kind of want to save this Anthony Feinstein moral courage, which is about the courage of professional investigative journalists and what motivates them to go out and do this kind of work, until after that show. But if you want to hear it tonight, if you vote, I will go with the vote. This is a democracy here at the Opperman Report. How proudly we our flag waves. Heidi Hollis, I see shadow people and the Hat Man, a guide on how to get rid of them for all angels. And she's on Coast to Coast, this woman. And we were chatting back and forth, okay? And it's all about those shadow people you see when you're on meth and stuff like that. We talk about that and the spiritual aspects of it and things like that. And the Hat Man, very interesting conversation. Another one is Ian Totten about the West Memphis 3. That was another back and forth, very conversational interview. So it's either Ian Totten, West Memphis 3, Heidi Hollis about shadow people and the Hat Man, Anthony Feinstein, moral courage about the profiles of investigative journalists, Jamie Deluxe, murder, mayhem, and censorship, or the IRA story with Dan Lawton. So put that in the chat room here, and I will go with the numerous votes. I think we only got like one person in the chat room. Let me double check here. We used to have a very active chat room. Oh, Northern Ireland she likes. And Heidi. Okay, well, since we only have one vote, and this was a democracy until our one voter voted, so now we just have whatever cat wants. Okay, let's see how we're doing on time. The show's almost over. Oh, look at this. 10 minutes in. All right, that's not so bad. I'm richer than Rudy Giuliani. How's that? That's the name of the show. I'm richer than Rudy. Rudy Giuliani just got hit with a defamation lawsuit about these two women that were poll workers over there, and he was defaming them and accusing them of all kind of crimes and stuff like that. They were underwent a lot of harassment and stalking and threats. These two poor women, and a lot of racist comments too as well. And Rudy was taken to court for defamation, and he never put on a defense. He didn't put on any defense whatsoever. Okay. And he's been claiming all along, oh no, once I get on the stand and once I lay out my case, everyone's going to see that I was 100% right. You know, they did steal the election. Nothing. He didn't even make an attempt. Now he just got hit with a $150 million judgment, which from my understanding, he can't pay. He's probably got some money squirreled away overseas. I'm sure he does. Because, yeah, this guy, we just had Lev Parnas on the show. And who was Rudy Giuliani's business partner just recently. Okay, and who's testifying right now in the Hunter Biden, Joe Biden impeachment stuff. That was a huge interview. I don't know how many people got it or can really listen and absorb this kind of stuff. I was talking to our guest today, Charles Derber, about and I says, you know, what about the students in your class now? But compare them to students from 10 years ago. Can they absorb and have critical thinking like kids used to? And even he says, well, no, it's different. It's different, you know, than teaching these kids now than it was 10 years ago, 20 years ago. That's a fact. So Lev Parnas came on, and he was Rudy's partner. This guy was deep involved in all that activity in Ukraine. He was there in Ukraine digging up dirt on Hunter Biden and the Bidens. He was there at the conversation. He put Trump on the phone with Zelensky for the perfect phone call where Trump tries to shake down Zelensky, says, I'm not going to give you this military aid unless you find dirt on the Bidens. That resulted in an impeachment against Mr. Trump. He was there on the plane heading to Vienna with Sean Hannity and another fellow. I forget he mentions his name. I think it was Patrick Sessions. Was involved in a lot of stuff. He's been skating. He's under the radar. Excuse me. I was really sick last night. I was up last night throwing up. I had fever yesterday all day long. It was really, I was like getting delirious and getting weak. And finally, when I ate something, I couldn't even lie down. I had like acid reflux. And then I just threw up, man. Threw up. And when I talked about it this morning, it seems like almost everybody I know has it too. People all over the country, different areas of the country, tell me, oh, we had the same thing. Oh, no, it's probably the chemtrails or the HARP doing it. That's right. But Lev Parnas was deep in all this stuff, and he was on a plane with Sean Hannity, and Rudy was supposed to be on that plane. They were headed to Vienna to pick up one of the Hunter Biden laptops that was prepared by the Russian FSB. I always forget if it's FSB or FSU. I'm old enough to remember the KGB. It's probably FSU, which is the current, equivalent of the Russian KGB in my day. And so Lev was on the plane there. Rudy never shows up for the flight. He cancels at the last second, and then he come on the plane. They arrest Lev. They leave Sean Hannity, and I believe it was Patrick Sessions was the third man on the plane. He doesn't have a problem either. But they pick up Lev. And then Lev talks about how when he was in maximum security custody, 23-hour-a-day lockdown, that Rudy was able to smuggle a postcard under his prison door cell, his jail cell door. Okay? Now, that's no joke to be able to pull that off. All right, that's serious business. The kind of people that can pull that stuff off can, arrange the death of someone like Jeffrey Epstein. The same crew, it would appear. So Lev was all up in this stuff with Rudy. Had him on the show last week. And you got to listen carefully. And a few things in that interview that I think kind of went past people's attention is, I'm asking him certain questions because I want to get a read on where he is today. See, I'm sure that Lev still has some allies and some friends in those camps. And I think I even know some of the names of those people. And I think in the past I was friends with some of those people myself. So when you turn, you're in a RICO case, you have co-defendants, you're in a conspiracy with people, and you turn on one, and maybe one or two or three, doesn't mean you cut off ties with everybody in your life. There's some people you still have business with on the side. So I'm sure that he still has relationships with some people in those areas, and I'm sure of that. And people, so my questioning of him, it's sometimes I'm just kind of feeling him out. I'm poking around the edges, and I hope people can pick this up, man. And there's a lot of savvy goes on with this stuff. Especially when you're interviewing someone who's a savvy guy, they're not going to just, they're not going to intimidate, and interrogate them or intimidate them into saying things. You have to kind of, feel it out of them. Sometimes you get a little, But one of the things he mentioned to me that I didn't even before the interview started, he says about the coup in Venezuela. That he was aware of that. And he said Patrick Sessions was involved in that too. Of course, Rudy Giuliani did a whole show about that. In fact, I'm the only one that talks about that. And Rudy's connections to that coup. And Trump's private security guards and their connection to that coup. And Rudy's clients that were drug dealers and drug money launderers that were involved in that coup. And here comes Lev Parnas 3-4 years later confirming everything I said. Okay. Guy who's firsthand directly involved in that stuff. He was on the phone with Guaido, he says on the show. We're going to have him come back. We'll flush all this stuff out, trust me. But, so Rudy must have some money stashed away if he's involved with these coke dealers and Guaido money and stuff like that. He can tap into those sources, man, for, hidden money. He doesn't want to get that money and pay these two women, the bill he owes them. But it seems to me, and I could say a lot of things about Rudy. The first time I met Rudy was way back when he was running for mayor, okay? And I was there at the meeting at the Doral Hotel with Rudy, I don't know if he's still alive, so I'm not going to say his name, but a very famous divorce attorney who was in those circles. Very famous private investigator. And Jackie Mason. Okay? And me. Okay? I was like the only nobody there. And they were discussing how Jackie Mason was going to be helping on the campaign, and I was like, I don't know. I didn't say it out loud because these are all men senior to me and more experienced and more, you know. But I just kind of said to them, well, I don't think it's a good idea. Okay, but all right. So I'm sure Rudy has some money stashed away. Okay, and the fact that Rudy is not put on a defense for this case here because he's not worried about the money. He's not worried about money in his life anymore. You know, what does that tell you guys? What, 75, 80 years old? And he's not worried about financial anymore. He's not worried about protecting his fortune. He's certainly not worried about protecting his legacy in the media and the history books, right? He's giving that all up. And now he's got a criminal case where he's facing life in prison. Okay? And I've said on the air before, I don't think he's going to live to serve a day in that prison. I don't think he's going to die in prison. I think he'll die before he goes to prison. Either self-inflicted or someone will take him out. Or he'll just die natural causes. One of those mysterious deaths of natural causes. Like, what was it, Nelson Rockefeller? Who died of mysterious natural causes. And they're moving the body around in the middle of the night. Corners, you know. I think that was Nelson Rockefeller, right? Gadzooks. So that's good old Rudy Giuliani, FSB. Thank you so much. Oh, wait, hold on here. Then we have to have a recount of the vote in the chat room here because there's only one voter, Kat, and she's voted for. Oh no, you want Heidi? Okay. I misread it this, but thank you so much. I thought she was voting against herself. So I have to have a recount. So Lev Parnas was involved with the Hunter Biden laptop. Of course, Rudy Giuliani was up to his neck in the Hunter Biden laptop. But there's a guy out there, very interesting fellow from Staten Island when you have it, who's also involved. Another guy from Staten Island who's also involved in the Hunter Biden laptop. And if you want to Google Ed Opperman, who told your first Hunter Biden laptop, if you don't know about my involvement with the Hunter Biden laptop and the whole Keith Abloh Hunter Biden laptop. And when I asked Lev Parnas about the Keith Abloh Hunter Biden laptop, he didn't want to talk about it. Look, there's a lot of stuff out there about the laptop. And people like this Miranda Devine, who wrote this book, The Laptop from Hell, and people try and, Ed, you should have Miranda Devine on the show because she's an expert on the laptop. Or people would send me articles or tweet threads, I guess they call them, about the Hunter Biden laptop. And say, Ed, have you seen this? And I got to tell you, some of those people should be talking to me about what I know about the laptop, okay? Because there was a time, I don't think right now at the moment, but there was a time I knew some more things that even Hunter Biden was aware of, okay, about the laptop and the chain of custody on that laptop. We've had people on this show who talked about how they were in Rudy Giuliani's apartment in New York City and they were asked to examine the laptop. The next day, the FBI comes in and raids Giuliani's house. They take all his electronics except for the Hunter Biden laptop, okay? So, but there's a fellow involved with this Hunter Biden laptop that his name kind of falls between the cracks. He's a very interesting guy from Staten Island. He's an Indian fellow. His name is Vish Bura. Young man, he lives with his mother on Staten Island in Red Bank, Staten Island, which is not a great neighborhood. I don't know what it's like now, but at the time when I lived in Staten Island, Red Bank was not a nice neighborhood. With the way rents are in New York now, maybe it has become a gentrified, fancy, yuppie neighborhood. But I don't think so. And Mr. Vish Bara lives with his mother and has a drug conviction in his past. Me and Vish, you think we'd get along great. And now what does Vish do? Vish is like a political fixer type of guy, right? And what's his political career? Well, right now, he was working for George Santos. That's the last gig he had, was working for George Santos. And running for interference with Mr. George Santos. Prior to that, he was running interference damage control for who? For Matt Gaetz, when he was having his scandals and his problems. It's a small world, isn't it? And before that, he was hanging out with Steve Bannon and working for Steve Bannon. So this guy, Mr. Vish Burra, has had access to the Hunter Biden laptop way back from the Steve Bannon days, when Steve Bannon was bragging about how he had a copy of the Hunter Biden laptop hard drive. And by the way, you know, Steve Bannon was bragging about having that hard drive before this fellow laptop repairman over there in Maryland, Mark Isaacs, you know, ever appeared anywhere. Okay, before this guy's story ever hit anywhere, Steve Bannon was saying he had a copy of this laptop. And by the way, you know, I posted a couple of memes tonight about how Rudy has me blocked on Twitter. And other people are coming up saying, oh, he has me blocked too. Let me tell you why he has me blocked. Okay, because Rudy knows who I am. And I'm 100% convinced at this point that Rudy knows who I am. 100% convinced. But he remembered me over the years. You know, he was the prosecutor in those cases I worked on, the Pizza Connection case, the commission case, all those cases. You know, he was the prosecutor. I was working on defense, a criminal defense investigator. Then he remembered me later on. Okay, when we would meet at the Doral. Then years later, now, you know, the whole thing that went on there at the debate, when they wanted me to get a hold of Kathy O'Brien, when Trump had all those women, the mistresses and the rape victims, the Clinton rape victims, accusers, there at the debate there at the Fisher-owned Intrepid Museum. Okay, it's a small world, guys. Okay. Vish Burra, working for Bannon, working for Matt Gaetz, and working for George Santos, known as some kind of a hacker kind of guy. He used to throw these parties, Hunter Biden laptop watch parties. And according to some people, George Santos hangs out with this Miranda Devine woman, New York Post, who wrote the book The Laptop from Hell. They drink at the same bar. Okay? And Vish Burra hangs out with this crew as well. Vish Burra openly confesses in public that he hacked into Hunter Biden's iPhone. And he's the one that obtained those WhatsApp texts that talk about, you know, where Hunter Biden is saying, I'm sitting right next to my father right now as I extort the Chinese and I demand a check from you right now. I forget what the exact wording was. It was pretty bad wording. Okay? And there's no doubt in my mind that the Hunter Biden is shaking people down for money all over the world. And so is John Kerry's son. Doing the exact same thing at the exact same time. Exact same place. Okay? They worked for they were partners. And then when Devin Archer goes and testifies before Congress and he says, let me tell you about John Kerry. I can't hear you. Okay. And we want to talk about Hunter Biden. Oh. Well, you know, Hunter Biden, the whole thing with Brezhnev, did you know that Rudy Giuliani, his agent over there in Ukraine, is the one who got Hunter Biden the job at Brezhnev? Did you know that, according to Devin Archer and even Lev Parnas, this whole business about Biden getting the prosecutor fired and he wouldn't release the money until he got him fired, Brezhnev wanted that prosecutor. They had that prosecutor in their pocket. That's the one they wanted. They didn't want them interfering with him. Okay? And by the way, everything I'm saying to you right now, everybody knows this. Okay? All these people, you're sending me their articles and their tweets and all this stuff. They know everything I'm telling you. Right now, this is not secret stuff from Ed Opperman. This is out there. All right, people don't talk about this stuff because they've got their Democratic agenda or they got their Republican agenda. I don't have that agenda. I don't have that problem. I told Lev Parnas, I says, no one wants to talk to you, man. Okay, no one wants. No one's going to let you say this stuff. I'm going to let you say because the Democrats don't like it and the Republicans don't like it. Where are you going to go? You're going to go to MSNBC? You're going to go to CNN? You can't. You're going to go to Fox? You can't. You got to come here. Oh, yeah, I know that. Okay. All right. By the way, I need you guys to retweet these shows right now. And retweet them, share them on Facebook. Right now, the next 2 weeks, How it works with podcast radio income is Christmas month is the biggest revenue ad month in podcast. It's like when you had the beeper company in the mall. These are the months you make enough to live the whole year. You got to retweet for me. You got to share. You got to retweet. You got to share. Please, 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 please. Post them on your Facebook page. Share them. Retweet them. Give them. Email them to your friends. Go knock door to door. Share these podcast links. Okay. So, but the thing is, we've reached a point where openly people are admitting to hacking into the president's sons. Just imagine where we are nowadays, man. Like the Watergate was, some burglars broke into the Democratic headquarters and tried to play some bugs. And here we have, they're setting up the president's son with a KGB, FSB, Russian spy laptop. Lev Parnas says that they were sending Biden over to Kazakhstan with hookers and blow and recording the whole thing and putting it on these laptops. I believe him, by the way. Okay? He's got no reason to make this up. We got Vish Bora admitting he hacked into the president's son's iPhone. We have Paul Manafort's texts and emails were hacked into by that Guccifer fellow. Okay? Which only there's a lot of suspicion about him. We have Patrick Berge came on the show talking about how they were trying to get him to break passwords and encrypted material on the Hunter Biden laptop. Okay? All these guys, we have Bannon talking about, I have a copy of the president's son's hard drive. We have them stealing Biden's daughter's diary. All of this is 100 times worse than Watergate. Wide out in the open. Talking about it. I can come on. I know about it. These guys know about it. I guarantee you they know about it. Okay. I've got a friend of mine today posted that there's a sex tape, a homosexual sex tape in the Senate. And she posted it on my Facebook. All right. And I had heard about that earlier today. I'd heard about it. And I even heard about who the senator staffer is. Senator Ben Cardin. It's supposed to be the senator, and it says staffers. Now, I have not, by the way, people contacted me earlier today. I have nothing to do with this tape. I have nothing to do with this tape whatsoever. I didn't know about it prior to today. I have nothing to do with it, okay? This is not one of my things. Okay, I'm not involved with it. All right, I'm not involved in everything, okay? So, with some things. Some things I try to keep my nose out of. Gay sex tapes, that's vulnerable, okay? God. But anyway, my point is this, man. We've reached a point of the political skullduggery going on in this amongst these capitalists. Because both Democrats and Republicans are both capitalists. So what are they shaking each other down for? The grift money, for the corruption, for the kickbacks is what they're fighting for now, right out in the open. And using intelligence and using spying and using hacking and using all this kind of stuff, using Russian intelligence, right out in the open. Russian money all over the place. David K. Johnson came on the show, by the way, last week. David K. Johnston, okay, came on the show. And talking about Trump's drug-dealing helicopter pilot. Check out that show. That's a new show, by the way. He contacted me to come back on the show because he's dying to talk about this helicopter pilot. No one lets him talk about it. Okay? And in the middle of the interview, he blurts out, oh, and by the way, Trump was comping these teenage girls down at the casino over there. They giving them alcohol and giving them rooms. Okay? By the way, you got to go on YouTube and Google this guy. Jonathan Otis. This guy actually shot up the Miami Doral Golf Club. I think it was in 2019 or 2017 or something like that. It was a while ago. And he put up an American flag and, he was shooting up the joint. He got shot 3 times, man. He acted like nothing happened to him. And in this thing, he's talking about the Illuminati. He's talking about Garagos being friends with Avenatti, which is 100% fact. When Michael Avenatti, the crime that Michael Avenatti is in prison for right now, he was doing those negotiations in partnership with Garagos. Somehow Garagos is untouched in this matter. So this crazed dancer in like a like a porn website, this guy Jonathan Otis, who's this dancer in this porn website, he's talking about how he knows all these people, and he's talking about the Illuminati and all these kind of things. A lot of stuff he's getting wrong that I know is wrong. No, for 100% fact, but it does sound like he's been talking to some people on the inside who know some things. And one of the people he's talking about is Puff Daddy, Mr. P. Diddy, Mr. Sean Puffy Combs. Many names for this fellow Sean Combs. Okay, Puffy, P. Diddy, Papa Diddy, all this stuff. And he talks about drug smuggling on their private planes. Okay, that's well known. Well, why does a guy named Sean Combs have a name Puff? Okay, you know, and marijuana. Okay, these other guys, Rockefeller Entertainment, all these characters, man, Damon Dash, and all these fellows, man, on their private planes running around. Snoop Dogg, you know, all these guys are known for their marijuana, and now it's all legal, so now they're going to legal joints, right? But Jonathan Otis claims back in 2017, 2018, 2019, in a police Secret Service recorded confession interrogation that just became available now after all this time, that he was involved with Sean Holmes, and Sean Holmes, this woman around Sean Holmes, Cashy, and that he would have to have sex with Cashy and Sean Holmes would watch it. Okay, now this tape just came out, but Cashy in her lawsuit against Sean Combs talks about this and doesn't mention this guy by name. And this guy talks about how he was paid off, has an NDA, has signed a confidential agreement, got a confidential payoff. So you want to grab that and check that out. That's some pretty interesting stuff. Okay. Another thing you want to... Oh, by the way, nothing just came out that you heard here first. FBI official who helped launch Trump-Russia probe sentenced to 4 years in prison for work with Russian oligarch. I forget the guy's name, but we had Everett Stern come on here the day that this man was arrested. This FBI official, who was a very high-ranking FBI official, was the guy who was Everett Stern's point of contact at the FBI. We've had Everett Stern on the show twice. He's got this. He's involved in some stuff. He's got a brand new lawsuit now, by the way, with another brand new lawsuit with Michael Flynn. How it is, I haven't been sued by Michael Flynn yet. I don't know, but Michael Flynn runs around suing everybody if you don't know it. Okay. Speaking of payoffs. And NDAs and keeping your silence. One of the things we have in the Opperman Report Patreon is Christian Ziegler, who is the Florida GOP chair. We have his search warrant affidavit, and we have the 911 call from a friend of the woman he raped. Okay. And he videotaped this, and then 15 minutes after this rape, he went to a Republican event, a GOP event, where he was like a speaker or something like that. 15 minutes later, he was at this event after completing this rape. Now, according to the search warrant affidavit and the police report, it was supposed to be a three-way consensual, a ménage à trois, as I like to call it, between him and his wife, who's the head of the Moms for Liberty and the Sarasota school board chair. Now, she's resigned, I believe, from both Moms for Liberty and the school board chair. He's refusing. Word on the street, okay? I heard this from Huggy Bear himself. Okay, and Rooster was far behind. Okay, with the word on the street says that Christian Ziegler wants a multi-million-dollar buyout in order to step down as the Florida GOP. And there's a meeting coming up. And he's requesting several $1 million to step down. Now, you can only imagine, okay, first of all, I've said this before, last week, I think, that in the old days, this guy would have resigned before these charges hit the paper. Okay, especially now, and I think I'm the only one mentioning this or talking about this whatsoever, but it says in the search warrant affidavit that the woman that was raped had a diminished capacity. She was had been drinking tequila all day long. She was out of it. She was in no condition to consent to sex no matter what. Okay, and she's claiming she never consented. And it appears from their conversations afterwards, their text messages and so forth, that was not consensual. Now, they're hanging their hat, the defense is on this case, that there's some discrepancies in how she described certain things that didn't match with apartment videos and stuff like that. But again, she was drunk all day on tequila. She was in a diminished capacity. She was in no condition to know whether she was knocking on the door or the door was knocking on her or what. All right, or what happened now or what happened then. Okay, and she was no in condition to give consent either. Okay. So this whole idea that this was some kind of like fun menage a trois between these three people, no, this was not. This is a woman with problems. Okay. And now this guy wants a payoff. Okay, and why could that be? Because I can tell you that the Florida GOP chair has a lot of dirt on a lot of people, especially if they're swingers and they're hanging around friends with DeSantis and with Casey DeSantis and people like Matt Gaetz and these other folks and who's that other fellow there? Joel Greenberg. Okay, and that whole bunch of these, well, you know, these are just the ones we know about out in the open. And that sheriff who shot himself at the post office, who was a roommate with Ron DeSantis, who was under investigation for trying to pay a young girl Taylor Swift tickets to get her to show her boobs to him on a video cam, and then a 17-year-old girl. And then he tried to pay off her family in the hundreds of thousands of dollars. They turned it down. So as you can see, there's a lot of sexual scandals down here in Florida. Something about the heat. It drives men wild out here, you know. And the GOP, man, with this whole bunch of, you know, you got Roger Stone did the same thing, got caught on Craigslist looking for a man to come, a well-hung, muscular man to come sleep with his wife. Well, yeah, one after another. The family of how many people? How many? The people of traditional family values, like Mr. Ron DeSantis. Why is he surrounded by all people who have extreme sexual fetishes and extreme sexual crimes? You know? I don't know. Maybe it's me. Let's see here. Oh, I guess one last thing I'd like to talk about here is it's kind of a big giant leap away from these other topics, but really not so much so, because again, it's Florida, sexual scandals, and who is the grand poobah of Florida sexual scandals? Mr. Jeffrey Epstein, who at this point has become like the Bond villain, okay, of all crimes out there. Jeffrey Epstein wasn't just a pedophile and a shady businessman and a con man and an extortionist and a blackmailer, and he was also a spy and an Israeli Mossad. And to listen to some people, you know, Southern Trust was also involved in cloning and medical studies and people like that. I got to say, Southern Trust, which you first heard about, by the way, when you first heard the Southern Trust on this show here when Stephen Hoffenberg said it's Southern Trust in public. Okay, and the offices for Southern Trust on St. Thomas was little tiny offices. No one ever walked in or walked out. There was no medical studies going on there. Okay, grow up, you know, with your nonsense. And with Ghislaine Maxwell was a submarine pilot. She could drive a submarine, so they were landing and piloting submarines into Jeffrey Epstein's pedophile island in Israel. And Disney cruise ships were docking at pedophile island over there, you know, and all this crazy stuff, because these people have these wild theories that all of Jeffrey Epstein's crimes took place down there at Little St. James in the Virgin Islands, okay? And I've been screaming about this now for 10 years, all right? And then finally, I think it was Mr. Boyce in one of his exhibits in a lawsuit, I think it was the Virginia Goofrey defamation lawsuit against Prince Andrew, I think it was. They did a chart. And you could find it if you Google on, it's not the chart that I really like, but it's one of the charts of the flight patterns of where she was taken on Jeffrey Epstein's plane. And you see them flying back and forth from Teterboro Airport in New Jersey to Palm Beach, Florida, to New Mexico, and sometimes to the island. But the island's only about 30% of the flights, okay? So people, and when you're talking about Trump's relationship with Epstein, they lived less than a mile apart. And people will say, well, Trump has never been to the island. Trump has never flown to the island, and all this crazy stuff about Oprah Winfrey landing her private jet on Little St. James. There was no landing strip on Little St. James. There's a helicopter pad there, and there's a dock, a small dock for a small boat. Okay, so you can't dock a large ship there. Okay, or there's no underwater sub port. Okay, the mouth to enter that little, I guess you'd call it where the dock is. Okay. It's only 8 feet deep. You can't get a big boat through there, okay? A big giant yacht would have a helicopter on it. None of that stuff, no. So, but the story is that they want you to believe is that all the Epstein crimes took place on an airplane. We need to see the flight logs because then we'll know where, because all the sex was happening on a plane. And we need to know who visited the island because that's where all the crimes were taking place, on the island. And the politicians were being flown to the island, and that's where they would have sex with these little girls, and it would be recorded on the island. Well, we know there was cameras in Palm Beach, on his property at Palm Beach. Okay, and by the way, if you ever go there, I visited out in front of that property in Palm Beach. It's like a 4-minute drive to Mar-a-Lago. It's 1.5 miles. Okay, you could ride a bike, you could walk it. It's very, very close. And we know there were cameras there, okay, because he was tipped off to the search, and he removed all the cameras and all the video equipment. And we also know, too, that in that search, what did they discover? School transcripts from the Royal Palms High School, which is 25 minutes away from where he lived there. In Palm Beach, 25-minute drive. And we know also, too, if you listen to the interviews I did with Jose Lambert, who's a private investigator, now he's a gossip columnist, and now he does opposition research down in Palm Beach. Interesting choice of career path. That Epstein would be driving around the trailer parks where these young girls lived that was about 20 minutes from his property there. In like a Lamborghini, in a Ferrari. Driving around the trailer parks, looking for these little 15-year-old girls, these 13-year-old girls, these 14-year-old girls that he had developed an emotional attachment to. Okay? So, let's back up a minute here. What we know for a fact is that down in Palm Beach, all these girls, many of these women came from Royal Palm Beach High School. Okay? We know this. And we know that many of them lived in those trailer parks down there nearby, 25 minutes from his house. And we know that 3 a day were coming to that property down there in Palm Beach because that's what the butler tells us. So, why are we so obsessed with this island? Okay? Because they don't want you focusing on Palm Beach or the Royal Palms High School. Or the trailer parks in Palm Beach where people can walk up to people and talk to them and find out what went on. They want everybody thinking this happened far away in an imaginary island. And you know what they did, man? This guy's so freaking brilliant. And they're so good at manipulating these idiots on the internet that he builds this mosque dome thing on there, which is like a fake thing. I talked to a guy recently. He said there were exercise equipment was stored in that mosque domed structure that didn't really have doors on it either. It was all painted on. This was a flimsy little thing. There wasn't part of the building plans there or permits that was approved for Little St. James whatsoever. This was just something that was thrown up, that when he started hitting YouTube and people were looking at what was going on there, hey, look at this, look how weird it is, this, look at all the mysterious things going on here, this is all some big faraway crazy thing with Mossad and all this other stuff and cloning, all this stuff. To make everything look crazy, like a hysterical thing, when these were pretty basic, simple crimes and extortion and blackmail that was going on, and financial crimes too. He stole the money from Hoffenberg. Okay, we know that, with the help of Rudy Giuliani, by the way. Listen to the Hoffenberg interviews. Rudy Giuliani was the corporate attorney for Tower Financial. When things started getting, the heat came down on them, Rudy took the side of Darren Endike, Richard Kahn, Jeffrey Epstein, and who was left holding the bag and going to prison? Stephen Hoffenberg. Where did all that money go? Nobody knows. It went to Southern Trust. Okay. What do we know about Manhattan? We know again that they were trolling these schools in Manhattan for little schoolgirls in Manhattan. Okay, and where was he bringing them? He wasn't flying them right away down to the island. He was taking them to his apartment in Manhattan, or parties with Trump, which we've had many witnesses on here talking about. Guys, you got to get your head out of the clouds. The people wanting you talking about, when we've documented this too on this show. The people who first promoted all this stuff about Lolita Express and Pedophile Island comes from a woman whose publisher is a Mossad agent whose specialty is in deception. His books is about deception. His publishing company is about deception. The woman who made these phrases popular, that's her publicist. Her attorneys for her sex trafficking awareness organization charity is Kirkland Ellis, the same attorneys for Jeffrey Epstein. You gotta take a couple of minutes and look at the people that are feeding you your information. If your only sources of information is Googling things and researching things and watching YouTube videos and reading other people's articles, okay, you got to wonder where you're getting your information and where are they getting their information from. I'm involved in a lot of this stuff, and I can tell you half of the things that I'm involved in, they got 100% wrong. Other times I'm talking to these people and they're trying to feed me misinformation. I get so frustrated with this stuff, man. And then, I'll read some comment online. I don't know if it's by design or what. Yeah, the whole Zorro Ranch, that's the whole thing too. Okay. I'll what more do you want? We have Hoffenberger on here talking about Rudy working for Epstein, right? And then I'll see a comment online saying, "Oh, Ed said that Rudy represented Epstein at his criminal trial." I heard him say it. He said it 10 times. So I don't know. I repeat myself over and over, man, because I'm trying to get this information out to you. What I know to be real. Okay, if I don't know it to be real, I'll tell you I know it, that I'm not sure. This is what I've heard. This is what I think. But what I know to be real, I know to be real. And then also, too, the other thing, too, is if I'm wrong, if you have some kind of information you could bring to me to correct me or educate me, I'm more than welcome to see it. But usually it's some article. Like, you want to tell me what's going on with the Hunter Biden laptop by telling me to read Miranda Devine's book? She's so freaking biased. She's hanging out drinking with the Vish Burra and George Santos, And okay, I really need TikToks. Okay. All right, guys, like I said, we're almost here. We got the last 2 minutes of the show. I really need volunteers to help me with TikToks and Reels. And to drive traffic to the podcast. It's so important this time of the year. You have no idea. When I was working at the Bieber Company in the mall, Christmas month, I would work in that mall 12 hours a day from open to close. Okay, because I knew we had to squeeze out every dollar we could, because that's what we were making for the year. And that's where we are right now. So I need your help, guys. We need TikToks. We need Reels. So I'm reaching out to a lot of people to help me make them. But I don't know, man. I don't know how to convince people to do things anymore, it seems. Or I could talk to them blue in the face and people just don't hear what I'm saying. Coming up next after this, due to the vote in the chat room, the one voter in our chat room who voted, chatting with herself and me, I guess, the beloved Kat, we're having next will be the IRA Northern Ireland show, then Heidi Hollis from, you know what, I'm going to have to overrule you, Kat. I think I should put up one of these YouTubers, either Ian Taunton or Jamie Deluxe. And I'll put up Heidi, too, because she has a big following with her audience. But either Ian Taunton or Jamie Deluxe, because they can promote this, too. And I need the money this week. We need to we need a lot of views and reshares this week. So what do you say, Kat? You got one more vote. We'll do Heidi's second for the second hour. But for the first hour would be either Ian Taunton, West Memphis 3, or Jamie Deluxe with a lot of gossip. The vote's about to close. I'm going to have to make an executive decision here on my own. I'm going to have to... No recount. Sounds good. What does that mean? Okay, I'll make a decision. I'll decide. After this, we'll play Jamie Deluxe. Okay, and then, by the way, there's some stuff in it. Oh, West Memphis, we'll play a West Memphis 3 show with Ian Taunton, which is a very good show, too. All right, guys. Thank you so much. Listen, guys, I really appreciate the audience here. You have no idea. I really enjoy doing this Friday night show, even when I'm sick as a dog and so exhausted. But please, we need your help with the TikToks and the Reels, sharing, retweeting. And, we're getting toward the end of the month, too. Patreon members, the Patreon members to help support the show and keep us in business here, You're not going to have me that much longer, all right? You're not going to have me, it's funny, something like Dave McGowan comes out and he announces he's dying. Everyone, oh my goodness, oh Dave, we love you so much. I announce I'm dying. Everyone's laughing at me. Oh, ha, 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 ha. Okay. All right. Okay. You're not going to have me that much longer. Let's just put it that way. All right, guys. Thank you so much. Good night. Coming up after this will be the West Memphis 3.
Everyone has gone away. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? No one cared enough to stay. Can you hear me? Can you hear me? You must remember me, oh man. I know that you can if you try. So just open up your eyes, oh man. Look who's come to say goodbye.